The sky above the United Nations Plaza in Geneva was a perfect, clear blue. It was a calm Tuesday morning. People moved across the wide space, some walking to work, others taking pictures. The normal sounds of the city filled the air. Then, without any sound at all, the light changed. The air in the center of the plaza shimmered, like heat rising from asphalt. But the day was cool. The shimmering grew brighter, twisting light itself. A low hum started, not heard with the ears, but felt in the bones of every person for a kilometer around. People stopped. They stared. Phones were lifted back from the point of light. A shape grew. It was not a ship that flew in. It was a ship that arrived, its molecules assembling from somewhere else in an instant. It was sleek and silver, shaped like a smooth spearhead. It made no sound. It hovered 30 meters above the stone ground, casting a long, cold shadow. Panic did not start immediately. There was only a deep, profound silence, broken by the distant wail of a siren that seemed to realize the danger far too late. A beam of light, pale and blue, shot from the underside of the craft. It did not burn or destroy. It painted a three-dimensional image in the air between the ship and the earth. The image was of a being. It was tall, with gray, leathery skin and 4 dark, pupil-less eyes arranged in a diamond on its face. It wore no clothes, but its body was marked with fine, silver lines that glowed softly. It was the Galactic Council emissary. Its name, for those who could hear it in the sub-frequency pulse that accompanied the image, was Kythar. The image spoke. Its mouth did not move in a human way, but the words were formed in clear, toneless English, Mandarin, Spanish, Arabic, and 100 other languages simultaneously, directly into the minds of the listeners. People of Earth, we are the Galactic Council. Your planet has been observed. Your species has been assessed. You are a Class 5 chaotic proliferate. Your energy signature is disruptive. Your expansionist trajectory is a threat to local stellar harmony. In a secure situation room deep beneath the Alps, a group of people watched this on a dozen screens. The room was quiet. Lee Hanna, a diplomat in her 40s with a calm, focused expression, leaned forward, her eyes missing nothing. Next to her, Kim Jun, a man with a military bearing, but the hands of an engineer, tapped rapidly on a tablet, pulling data from the global sensor net. On the screen, the emissary continued. You are given a period of 10 standard galactic cycles for compliance. This correlates to 30 of your planetary months. Compliance is thus: first, you will initiate a voluntary reduction of your biological population to 1% of its current level. Methods are your choice. Second, you will surrender all technology above Tier 2 categorization. This includes your fusion reactors, your quantum computers, your rudimentary gravity manipulation drives. You will return to a pre-industrial biological state. A stewardship fleet will arrive to oversee this transition. A world away in the plaza, a choked cry escaped from someone in the crowd. The image of the emissary remained utterly still. If you do not comply, the voice stated, the tone never changing, the stewardship fleet will perform a planetary sterilization upon its arrival. This is not a punitive action. It is a galactic hygiene procedure. The threat is now communicated. The countdown begins. The blue light vanished. The silver ship hung in the air for 3 more heartbeats. Then it simply unmade itself, fading from existence as quickly as it had appeared. The plaza was left in stunned silence, which was then shattered by a rising tide of screams, shouts, and panic. In the bunker, the silence was heavier. Park Day, the elder head of the newly formed unified Earth government, slowly removed his glasses. So, it is not an invasion. It is an extermination notice. For being too noisy. Lee Hanna let out a slow breath. They see us as a disease, a pathogen. Their language is legalistic, clinical. They gave us a verdict, not an opening for dialogue. They gave us a threat. Kim Jun corrected, his voice low. He was still looking at his data. Look at the energy signature of the arrival and departure. The power is immense, but the application? It's precise, surgical, and look at the wording of their message. Hannah turned to him. What about it? They said the threat is now communicated, not the war has begun. They gave us a time frame. 30 months. Kim Jun finally looked up, his eyes sharp. A threat is a tool of negotiation. It is a lever. They believe we can be levered. They believe we will see their overwhelming power and choose to. Die quietly. And why wouldn't they believe that? Asked Yoon-jia, the chief Zenit psychologist from the other side of the table. Her face was pale. To them, we are children screaming in a library. They are the ancient librarians. Their first and only response is to remove the noise. They operate on a logic so old it has become like instinct. We are an irrational variable in their perfect static equation. Static? Hannah asked. They are not growing, Jia said, gaining confidence in her analysis. They are not curious, not in the way we are. They are maintaining our chaos, our wild, illogical leaps of art and science, our fights and our loves. It is a form of violence to their ordered existence. They aren't evil. They are. Tidy. Park Dae rubbed his temples. So we are a mess they wish to clean up. How do you negotiate with a broom? Lee Hannah stood, pacing slowly. We find their rules, their legal framework. There must be a precedent, a way to appeal. We prove we are not a chaotic proliferate. We prove we can be tidy. Kim Jun gave a short, humorless laugh. He swiveled his tablet around. On it was a replay of the ship's departure, with energy readings overlaid. Hannah, they can travel between stars in an instant. They can project matter and energy across light years. Their cleanup crew will be a fleet that can crack our planet like an egg. We cannot prove we are tidy in 30 months. We cannot even build a broom that reaches their ankles. Then what is your suggestion, Director Kim? Park Dae's voice was weary. Kim Jun pointed at the frozen image of the emissary. They sent a threat. A formal, calculated threat. It is the first move in a negotiation. They assume we are too primitive to understand. So we do not reply as primitive, frightened creatures. We do not beg. We do not scream. He paused, his gaze moving from Hannah to Park Dae. We answer the threat. We send a warning. In a language they will understand. A warning with what? Hannah asked. Our missiles would not even scratch their paint. Not with their weapons, Jun said, a fierce light in his eyes. With ours. But not the way they think. We don't aim for their ships. We don't declare war. We demonstrate a principle. We show them the one variable in their perfect equation they did not account for. Which is human creativity, Kim Jun said. But not with a painting or a song. We show them what human creativity looks like when it is backed by the full, desperate, and unified focus of 10 billion people who have just been told to lie down and die. We show them our chaos is not a weakness. It is a weapon they cannot comprehend. We send them a message they cannot delete. We send it in something very, very hard to ignore. Park Dae leaned back, his old eyes studying the younger man. You are talking about striking them. No, sir, Jun said firmly. I am talking about writing to them. We just need a very large pen. Lee Hannah looked from Jun's determined face to the horrified one of Yoon-jia, and finally to the contemplative expression of Park Dae. The fear in the room was still there, a cold knot in her stomach. But beneath it, sparked by Kim Jun's impossible, dangerous idea, was something else. It was not hope. Not yet. It was the first faint flicker of defiance. The Galactic Council had looked at humanity and seen a problem to be erased. Kim June was proposing they make themselves into a different kind of problem entirely, one that could not be solved by simply turning off the lights. Start working on the pen. Director Kim, Park Dae said softly, his decision made. We have 29 months and 3 weeks left to write our reply. The world held its breath, and then the screaming started. The screaming was not just from fear, though there was plenty of that. It was also from anger, a deep and primal roar of injustice that echoed across every continent. Governments, so often divided, found unity in a single chilling fact. Extinction does not care about borders. The old alliances of NATO, the Pacific Rim, the Eurasian Bloc, they melted away. In their place, with a speed that surprised everyone, the unified Earth government formed. Its first and only order of business was the emissary's ultimatum dot in the bunker under the Alps, now called Haven Prime. The mood was a storm of quiet activity. Lee Hanna spent her days and nights buried in the data stream from the emissary's visit. Every photon, every energy fluctuation, every syllable of the message was picked apart. She worked with teams of linguists and programmers, trying to crack the underlying structure of the Galactic Council's language. It was a logic-based code, beautiful in its cold precision, and utterly devoid of metaphor or emotion. There was no word for hope. There was a term for statistical probability of continued non-threatening existence, which was as close as they got. They don't negotiate, Hanna said. Her voice tired. She was in a small meeting room with Kim June and Yoon Jia. They assess, they decree, they enforce. Their entire communication is a series of nested commands. We can't appeal to their mercy. They don't have a concept for it. Yoon Jia nodded, pushing a strand of dark hair from her face. My team agrees. Think of them not as people, but as gardeners. Very old, very careful gardeners. They have a picture of the perfect garden. We are a weed. A fast-growing, strange-looking weed that is spreading. They don't hate the weed. They simply have a rule. Weeds are removed to protect the garden's design. Kim June, who had been staring at a schematic on his tablet, looked up. A gardener uses a tool, a trowel, a spray, something precise. They scent a threat first. That's their trowel. They expect us to see we are a weed, and... What? Wilt? Essentially, yes, Jia said. They believe their display of power is the spray. They expect compliance. Their entire history must be one of other weeds, seeing the tool and choosing to die quietly. It is the most efficient solution. But we're not a weed, June said, a hard edge in his voice. We're a damn rose bush with thorns. And we don't want to be in their garden. We want our own plot of dirt. He turned his tablet around. On it was not a weapon, but the design for an old ship, a pre-council human design. A colony ship, meant for slow generational travel. They've seen our latest tech, our fastest warships. They've cataloged it as Tier 2 primitive. They expect any response to come from that direction. Henna understood first. Her eyes widened. You want to use something older, something they wouldn't consider a threat. Not just older, June said, zooming in on the ship's engines. Simpler, dumber, but we can make it stronger. We rip out the living quarters, the life support, the gardens. We leave the frame, the guidance, and the engine. Then we pump every ounce of power we have into that engine. We make it go fast in a straight line. Not FTL, not fancy, just very, very fast kinetic energy. A missile, Hanna said flatly. A delivery system, June corrected. The question is, what are we delivering? It can't be a warhead. Even a nuke would be a firecracker to them. It has to be something else. Something that delivers a message, not destruction. Yoon Jia leaned forward. A psychological message. We need to break their logic. We need to be an equation they cannot solve. Their prediction models failed because they could not model human creativity. So we must show them creativity is not a bug. It is a feature. A terrifying one. An idea, wild and fragile, began to form in the space between them. It was Hannah who gave it words. We don't send them a no. We send them an answer to a question they never asked. They think they know us from watching. So we show them who we really are. All of it, the good and the bad, the art and the war, the love and the hate. We make them see the whole chaotic, terrible, beautiful picture. Kim Joon's mind was already racing ahead, connecting concepts. We build a payload, a data core, but not just a hard drive. Something that can express the data. Something that can't be ignored. He looked at Jia. You said they're gardeners who value order? Perfect shapes? Jia nodded. Their architecture, their ship design, it's all geometric purity. Perfection is stability to them. A slow, grim smile touched Joon's lips. So we give them a masterpiece. But not on a canvas. On a scale they can't miss. The plan, once voiced, seemed impossible. It was given the code name Pen Pal. The mission was not to fight the Galactic Council. It was to mail them a letter. A very loud, very heavy, very permanent letter. Park Day approved the concept. The resources of Earth were thrown into it. Factories that once made cars now forged engine parts for the old colony ships. Programmers, artists, historians, and musicians were all brought to Haven Prime, led by a young, brilliant software engineer named Choi Min-ho. They began the greatest archival project in history. They weren't just collecting data. They were weaving it. A symphony would be tied to the chemical formula of the paint used in a famous painting. The code for a video game was linked to the genetic sequence of a sunflower and the text of a love poem from ancient Rome. It was a chaotic, interconnected web of human experience. Min-ho explained it to the council, his hands moving rapidly as holograms of data swirled. It's adaptive code. It's not just information. It's a seed. When it arrives, it will assess its environment and express the data in the most effective way to be seen and understood. It will use local materials. What materials? Park Day asked. Kim Joon brought up a star chart. He pointed to a system near the supposed core of Galactic Council space. This is System K7X. Our best guess is it's culturally central to them. It has no inhabited planets, but it has a massive, dense asteroid belt. The Council's own bulletins list it as a zone of celestial purity. It's a park, a museum of natural space rocks. Hannah saw it then. The full, audacious scope. We don't shoot at their worlds. We shoot at their sculpture garden. Exactly, Joon said. Our delivery systems, our pens, will slam into chosen asteroids. They will be moving at a significant fraction of light speed. The impact energy will be colossal. And then Min-ho's seed will activate. It will use the debris field, the energy, the raw material of the asteroids themselves. To create something. To create what? Park Day whispered. Choi Min-ho smiled, a nervous, excited flicker. That's the point, sir. We don't pre-program a statue. We give the seed the entire library of human form, human expression, human achievement. It will use that library to make something new. Something that says, we are here. We are complex. You cannot delete us with a simple command. It will be our signature, carved into a moon. The room was silent. It was insane. It was poetic. It was the most human thing any of them had ever heard. Yoon Jia finally spoke. They will see it as an act of vandalism, a defacement of their perfect garden. Lee Hana looked at the faces around the table, the determination of Kim Jun, the creative fire of Choi Minho, the calculated understanding of Yoon Ji-ah. She felt the weight of the words she would have to craft, the message that would accompany this wild, violent piece of art. No, Hannah said softly, her diplomat's mind finding the precise language. They sent a threat of sterilization, of making us and our world blank, clean. We are sending a warning that we can create, that we will leave a mark. They want to erase our canvas, so we will paint on theirs. She looked at Park Dae. It's not a declaration of war. It's a declaration of existence. Park Dae, the weight of 10 billion lives on his shoulders, looked from the star chart to the swirling, beautiful chaos of the human data seed. He saw no other path. The gardeners had come with their shears. Humanity would not be a weed. It would be a wild, thorny, unforgettable rose, climbing over their pristine wall. Make the paint, he said. The silence of the galaxy was a lie. Earth learned this in the months after the emissary's visit. Passive listening stations, pushed to their limits, began to pick up the faint whispers of the Galactic Council's domain. It was not the bustling radio chatter of human space. It was more like the steady, low hum of a vast and ancient machine. Occasional perfectly formatted data packets pulsed between star shipping manifests, stellar reports, administrative updates. The quiet was not empty. It was full of order. To human ears, it sounded dead. Inside Haven Prime, the quiet was different. It was the focused, intense quiet of a hive. The plan, Pen Pal, was no longer just an idea. It was a global obsession. The fear of extinction had been forged into a single, determined purpose. Kim Jun's domain was a cavernous hangar carved into the mountain rock. Here, the old colony ships, once meant to carry hopeful families to new worlds, were being reborn. They were skeletal now. All the soft, living parts were stripped away: the cryopods, the schools, the hydroponic gardens. What remained were the titanium alloy spines and the massive blocky engines. Teams of engineers swarmed over them, not making them elegant, but making them brutally simple and overpowered. They looked for complexity, June said to his lead engineer, watching a thruster array being welded. They look for power signatures that match their own technology. So we give them simple physics. A rock thrown very, very hard. The engines were the key. Human faster-than-light travel was a delicate, new thing. It bent space. The Council's technology did something else, something humanity didn't understand. So June abandoned FTL entirely. He went back to the oldest method, push. They attached massive, crude fuel tanks filled with a volatile plasma mix. The ships would accelerate for months, building speed across the solar system, before releasing their payloads. The payloads themselves were not ships anymore, but sleek, dumb projectiles-guided asteroids. They were the pens. Meanwhile, in a clean, white room that felt a world away, Choi Minho and his team were building the ink. The data core, officially called the library seed, was the most complex software ever conceived. It wasn't a file to be read. It was an eye artist with a 10 billion piece palette. Minho's fingers flew across a holographic keyboard. On a large screen, streams of data merged and danced. It's about connection, he explained to Lee Hana, who visited often. She felt a need to understand this part of their soul they were sending away. We don't just give them a list of Beethoven's Fifth. We give them the vibration of the cello string, the feeling in the musician's chest, the political turmoil of Europe at the time, and the math of the sound waves. We connect the Mona Lisa to the chemistry of the paint, to the life of Da Vinci, to the concept of a smile itself. Hana watched as lines of code intertwined with images of forests, equations, and children's laughter. How will it express all this? It can't just play a video. Minho brought up a simulation. It showed an asteroid floating in space. A dot representing their projectile struck it. The asteroid shattered. Then the simulation fast-forwarded. The cloud of debris didn't just float away. It began to move. Guided by tiny, programmed thrusters from the projectile's core, the pieces started to arrange themselves. Dust and rock coalesced. They formed a shape. In the simulation, it was a simple, recognizable human form, a hand, reaching out. The seed uses the impact energy and the raw material, Minho said, his eyes bright. It has a simple physical goal, to create a large, permanent structure from the debris. But what it creates is chosen in the moment. It samples the local environment, scans any council sensors nearby, and then from the human library, it selects concepts and forms that will best communicate. It might carve a face. It might sculpt a famous Earth landmark from rock and ice. It might arrange debris into a giant mathematical equation we discovered. The message is not one thing. The message is our entire capacity to make things. It was beautiful and terrifying. Hana realized they were sending a virus of creativity that Yoon Jie's team provided the psychological rules. The sculptures must be perfect, she instructed Minho, flawless in their geometry and execution. But the subject must be profoundly, emotionally chaotic. It must be organic, feeling, imperfect in spirit. This contradiction will break their logic. A perfect statue of a weeping child. A flawless metal carving of a raging storm. They value perfection as an end. We will show them perfection as a tool to express chaos. The final piece was the warning itself. Hana spent days in her office, wrestling with words. The council's language had no poetry. Her message had to be clear, but it had to carry the weight of human defiance. She worked with Jia to understand the pressure points. They value clarity and precedent, Jia said. So we must be clear. We are responding to their threat. But we must also establish a new precedent, that humanity speaks back. Finally, Hana had it. It was short. It would be transmitted on a loop from the projectiles, and from Earth, at the moment of launch, to the Galactic Council. You sent a threat of erasure. You saw only chaos. We are sending a warning. We are chaos that creates. You mistake our nature. Do not mistake our restraint for weakness. Do not mistake our message for a missile. Observe what we build when left alone. The next message will be a conversation. She showed it to Park Dae. The old man read it slowly several times. It is not an apology. It is not a surrender. It states a fact and draws a line. Good. The months blurred together. The launch day approached. 10,000 pens were loaded with their library seeds and silently deployed across the solar system, hidden behind moons, in the shadow of gas giants, drifting in the cold outer dark. They were positioned on specific ballistic paths. Kim Jun's masterstroke was the targeting solution. The projectiles were not all aimed at the one asteroid belt in K7X. They were aimed at many belts in Council-aligned systems, all of them listed as preserved zones. And their launch was not a single event. It was a wave. A single shot is an attack, June explained to the final council. 1,000 shots, spread over days, hitting 10 different, distant, and pristine locations. That is a statement. That is a pattern. That is something their logical minds will have to stop and process. They won't be able to react quickly, because it won't be a war. It will be. Graffiti appearing on all their walls at once. The day before the launch, Lee Hana found Kim Jun on an observation platform, looking at a hologram of the solar system. Thousands of red lines snaked out from hidden points, converging on their distant targets. Are we monsters? She asked quietly. were about to vandalize the galaxy. June didn't look away from the lines. They were going to wipe our children's memories from the universe. To them, we are already dust. Monsters don't warn you, Hannah. They just eat. We are sending a calling card. He finally looked at her. We are saying, we are here. And we are not afraid to make a mess to prove it. Hannah nodded, the weight of it sitting on her shoulders. They were not firing missiles. They were mailing 10,000 letters, written in fire and stone, to the most powerful beings they had ever known. And all they could do now was hope the message was read. The clock ran out. 30 Earth months after the emissary's visit, on a day marked in red on every human calendar, the Galactic Council's stewardship fleet arrived. It did not appear in a flash over Geneva. It materialized with silent, terrifying grace at the edge of the solar system, just beyond the orbit of Neptune. Human sensors, strained to their limits, painted the picture. There were 12 ships. They were not shaped for war, not with sharp edges and gun ports. They were smooth, geometric ovals, like polished stones. They were the color of old ice. They emitted no heat, no readable energy signature, except a faint gravitational shadow. They were clean, silent, and final. They did not hail Earth. They did not repeat their threat. They simply began to move inward, towards the sun, at a steady, unhurried pace. They were gardeners coming to pluck the weed dot in Haven Prime. The air was electric. Park Day stood at the center of the command room, his hands clasped behind his back. Lee Hannah stood to one side, her mouth dry. Kim June was at the main tactical station, his eyes fixed on a different set of screens. Yoon Jia watched the alien fleet, her face a mask of professional calm, though her knuckles were white. They are not even scanning for defenses, a young analyst reported, her voice shaky. They are ignoring us, proceeding on schedule. They see nothing to scan for, Kim June said, his voice low and firm. All according to their prediction. He looked at Park Day. Sir, it is time for our reply. Park Day took a deep breath, looking at the image of the cold, advancing fleet. He thought of all the children on Earth, looking up at a sky they now feared. He thought of the libraries, the music, the messy, wonderful chaos of billions of lives. He nodded once. Send the warning. Then launch Pen Pal. Lee Hannah pressed a button. On every frequency, from every broadcast satellite and deep space array, her pre-recorded message began to transmit, aimed directly at the Council fleet and out into the wider galaxy, to the Galactic Council. You sent a threat of erasure. You saw only chaos. We are sending a warning. We are chaos that creates. You mistake our nature. Do not mistake our restraint for weakness. Do not mistake our message for a missile. Observe what we build when left alone. The next message will be a conversation. The words echoed into the dark. The Council fleet did not acknowledge them. It did not change course or speed. Launch, Park Day said. Kim June entered the final command. Across the solar system, 10,000 triggers were pulled. But there were no fiery launches from Earth, no dramatic missile trails. The pens had been coasting dormant for months. Now, at this precise moment, their stolen engines, packed with crude plasma fuel, ignited from behind the rust-colored cliffs of Mars' smallest moon, from the deep, icy shadow of Saturn's rings, from the lonely, dark clouds of the Oort cloud, a light year out, 10,000 projectiles. Simple chunks of metal and ceramic wrapped around Choi Minho's library seed lit up. They were not fast by Council standards, but they were fast by the simple, brutal laws of kinetic energy. They accelerated on courses plotted long ago, bending around stars, using gravity as a slingshot. Their target was not the fleet at Neptune. Their target was the sacred, quiet garden of the galaxy itself, The Council fleet's reaction was immediate, but it was confused. Their sensors, so finely tuned to high-energy weapons and spatial warps, suddenly blared with alerts. But the alerts were nonsensical. Primitive chemical plasma drives. No shields. No intelligent guidance beyond basic ballistics. The objects were not aimed at them. The trajectories were fanning out, away from the solar system, towards preserved zones. It made no tactical sense. For a moment, the perfect, orderly fleet seemed to hesitate. Their flawless formation stuttered. "They're trying to compute it," Yunjia whispered, watching the data. "It doesn't fit a category. It's not an attack on them. It's something else." Days passed. The Council fleet had stopped its advance. It hung in the void, analyzing. The projectiles sped on. Weeks passed. The projectiles entered what humanity believed was Council space. Sensors went dark. They were too far to track now. All humanity could do was wait and watch the frozen fleet at the edge of their home. Then, the first signal came back. It was not from the projectiles. It was a frantic, scrambled data burst, intercepted by a listening post near Jupiter. It was in the Council's language. Li Hana's team decoded it. It was an internal Council alert. The translation was rough, but the meaning was clear. Asterisk, anomalous event at K7X preservation zone. Non-natural transformation of celestial bodies. Cause, external kinetic impact. Pattern detected across multiple zones. Pattern is expressive, assessing. Asterisk, a video attachment, low resolution, came through. The command room crowded around the screen. It showed the asteroid belt in K7X, or what used to be a belt. Floating in the center of the field was a new structure. It was made of asteroid dust, rock, and frozen gases, fused together by the tremendous energy of impact. It was a perfect, geometrically flawless sphere. But covering the sphere, carved in deep, precise relief, were thousands upon thousands of human faces. Every face was different. They showed every emotion: joy, sorrow, anger, wonder, love, peace. They were young and old, from every corner of Earth. It was a perfect execution of an imperfect subject. A monument to chaotic life, made with sterile precision. Another alert flashed. This one from a different system. The feed showed a different structure. This one was a vast, double helix of shimmering metallic rock, twisting elegantly through space, a perfect model of human DNA, but wrapped around it, like vines, were strands of what looked like musical notation and fragments of poetry. Carved into the rock itself, another, a perfectly smooth obelisk, on which was etched, in minute detail, the complete landscape of the Himalayas. Another, a simple child's drawing of a house and a sun, rendered on the surface of a small moon with impossible accuracy. The data feeds from the Council became a storm of confusion. Pattern is not destructive. Pattern is communicative. Source intelligence is demonstrating creative capacity exceeding prior assessment. Intent is not hostile. Intent is unknown. Predictive models failing. The Pen-Pal projectiles are identified. Warning message is being re-evaluated. In Haven Prime, people were crying. Not from fear, but from awe. Choi Minho was sobbing quietly, seeing his library seeds speak in a way he had never dreamed. Yoon Jia was nodding, her theory confirmed. The contradiction. It's breaking them. They can understand the perfection of the craft. They cannot understand the wildness of the content. Kim Jun watched the frozen Council fleet on his main screen. Their clean, orderly formation was beginning to shift. Ships were turning, not towards Earth, but towards the affected systems. They were being called away to look at the artwork. Li Hana felt a tremor of hope, sharp and painful. They're reading it. They're actually reading our letter. The final image came in. It was from the most central, most sacred preservation zone. The projectile had struck the largest asteroid. From it, the seed had created not a single object, but a scene. A human figure, made of dark asteroid rock and glittering ice, knelt on a floating plinth. In its hands, it held not a weapon, but a rough, unshaped stone. The figure's head was tilted, looking at the stone with an expression of intense, focused curiosity. It was a sculptor about to begin work. The message was unmistakable. We are not finished. We have only just begun to create. The main screen tracking the Council fleet at Neptune flickered. One of the 12 ships winked out of existence. Then another. They were not leaving. They were going to see for themselves. The threat had not just been answered. It had been drowned out by a choir of 10,000 voices, singing a song of humanity in the language of stone and stars. The warning had been delivered. A new silence filled the solar system. The Council's stewardship fleet was gone. They had not left in anger or to attack. They had simply departed. The pressure that had pushed down on humanity for 30 months lifted, leaving behind a strange, breathless emptiness. The world waited. There was no celebration, not yet. There was only the quiet hum of 10 billion people holding their breath. Looking at the sky dot in Haven Prime, the work did not stop. If anything, it became more intense. Kim Jun's teams monitored every sensor, mapping the faint ripples of Council ships moving not towards Earth, but between their own wounded garden worlds. Lee Hanna and her linguists were drowning in data. The internal Council communications they had intercepted were now a flood not of orders, but of debate. The clean, logical language was fractured by new, uncertain terms. They are using words with no direct translation, Hanna told Park Day and the others. She looked exhausted but alive, her eyes bright. The closest we can get is constructive desecration, ordered chaos pattern, and non-hostile intentional vandalism. They are arguing. For the first time in their records, they are having a real argument. Yoon Jia smiled a thin, professional smile. Good. Their perfect equation has too many new variables. They are trying to solve for humanity, and their math is breaking. We have forced them to ask a question, not give an answer. Park Day steepled his fingers. And what question is that? The only one that matters, Jia said. What are we? Weeks turned into a month. Then a single ship returned. It was not the emissary's spearhead. It was one of the smaller, oval stewardship vessels. It did not appear at the edge of the system. It appeared just outside the orbit of Mars, a deliberate, closer distance. It did not move. It simply hung there, silent. It's waiting, Kim Jun said. It's listening. Lee Hanna corrected. She composed a simple, clean message on the same frequency as their original warning. Unidentified Council vessel. This is Earth. We are ready to talk. The reply came not as a mind voice, but as a standard radio transmission. It was the emissary, Cathar. Its tone was no longer the flat, absolute certainty of a judge. There was a new quality of careful, precise hesitation. Earth, your warning was received. The Council requires clarification. You were designated a chaotic proliferate. Your actions were not proliferation. They were expression. Explain the intent of the K7X transformation and others. Hannah took a deep breath. This was the moment. She spoke not as a supplicant, but as an equal who had demanded to be heard. The intent was to communicate what your threat would destroy. You saw chaos as a waste product. We see it as the source. The sculptures are examples. They are proof that our chaos has purpose. It creates. It builds. It wonders. You tried to scare us with annihilation. We showed you what we build with rocks and silence. There was a long pause. Then, your method caused permanent alteration of preserved zones. This is a violation of council law. Kim Jun leaned into the microphone Hana was using. His voice was firm. Your law demanded our permanent alteration. A violation for a violation. But we did not target life. We targeted rocks. We answered your threat with proportional response. A warning for a threat. Another pause, longer this time. The concept of proportional response was clearly being turned over in a mind unused to negotiation. The patterns are illogical, Cathar stated. They are perfect in execution, chaotic in subject. This is a contradiction. Yoon Jia spoke no. It is only a contradiction if you believe order and chaos cannot exist together. For humanity, they are the same thing. The chaos of feeling creates the order of a song. The order of mathematics creates the chaos of new stars. You asked us to choose one. We are showing you we are both. A day passed with no response. The ship remained. Then a request came. A delegation wishes to meet, in a neutral space, to discuss the new data. Park Day agreed. The meeting would be on the old, abandoned International Space Station, kept in a stable orbit. It was a human place, but not a threat. Lee Hana and Kim Jun went, with Yoon Jia and Park Day observing from Haven Prime. They floated in the warm but clean module, waiting. The council ship sent a small shuttle. Through the viewport, they saw Cathar itself float across the gap, clad in a simple environmental suit. It entered the airlock. Face to face, it was both less and more than its image. The gray skin, the 4 dark eyes. It moved with an eerie, fluid grace. But its eyes took in everything, the slightly scuffed walls, the handwritten labels on panels, a faded photograph of an astronaut's family taped to a console. It saw the mess, the history. You are Lee Hana. You are Kim Jun, it said, its voice filtered through a speaker. We are, Hana said. Your warning was effective, Cathar stated. The Council's predictive models for your species have been deleted. They are invalid. You have presented a paradox. A species that spends great resources to create art, not weapons, as a response to an existential threat. This is not efficient. It is not logical. It is survival, June said. Our kind of survival. We do not just want to live. We want to live as us. Your threat was to make us not exist. Our warning was to show you what us is. Cathar was silent for a long time, its 4 eyes studying them. The creations in the preservation zones. They are being studied. Many find them disruptive, but they cannot be ignored. They raise questions about you, about the nature of chaos. It seemed to struggle with the next words. The threat of sterilization is withdrawn. It is an inappropriate tool for a paradox. The words hung in the air. Lee Hana felt a weight she had carried for years suddenly vanish, leaving her lightheaded. Withdrawn? She managed to say, The Council does not make apologies, Cathar said, its tone almost clinical. It corrects errors in data. The data on humanity was incomplete. Your Pen Pal project provided the missing variables. The equation of your existence is now under review. You are recategorized from chaotic proliferate to chaotic creative. This is a new category. Protocols for interaction are not established. Kim Jun let out a slow breath. So what happens now? Now, Cathar said, turning its gaze to the viewport, to the blue curve of Earth below, there is conversation. You requested it. We will listen. You will explain. Your chaos. Your order. Your music and your missiles. It looked back at them. The warning was received. Do not mistake our curiosity for approval, but do not mistake our withdrawal for weakness. We are interested. The meeting ended. Cathar returned to its ship. The vessel did not leave. It moved to a higher orbit, a watching position. Back in Haven Prime, the news spread. The threat was gone. They were not saved. They were engaged. It was a beginning, not an end. Park Day addressed the world, his old voice firm. They are not our friends. They are not our masters. They are an audience. And for the first time in our history, the whole galaxy is watching. Let us show them what we do next. On Earth, people did not just cheer. They went back to work. They played music a little louder. They painted. They built. They loved. They lived. The shadow was gone, replaced by a distant, curious light in the sky. Li Hana stood with Kim Jung on a balcony, looking at the stars. We painted on their garden wall, she said softly. And now they want to know why we picked those colors, June replied. He pointed to a steady new light among the stars, the council observership. They're waiting for the next page. Far away, in the cold, perfect belt of the K7X system, the sphere of 1,000 faces turned slowly in the starlight. Near it, the figure of the kneeling sculptor held its unshaped rock, forever poised to begin. The message was not a threat. It was not a plea. It was a simple, undeniable statement, carved in stone for all time. We are here.